Good evening. Welcome to the 2020 NLCS School Board Candidate Forum, sponsored by the North Lawrence Education Association. Your moderator tonight will be NLEA teacher Logan Feltz. We ask that everyone would please silence their phones. We have a few just staff members in the building. And we'll pass it off to Logan.
Good evening. I'm Logan Feltz, representing the NLEA. I'm one of the teachers. Tonight is our 2020 North Lawrence Community Schools School Board Candidates Election Forum. Everyone that is seated here tonight, all 11 of them, are running for school board. We'll begin tonight by giving each candidate 2 minutes to introduce themselves and tell you about their platform. There's a timer that's being kept on the front row, and they'll ring a bell when the time limit has been reached. We'll begin tonight with Mr. Larry Arnold. You have 2 minutes, sir.
First of all, I'd like to thank the NLEA for sponsoring this forum and for the teachers for coming out this evening. My name is Larry Arnold. I currently serve on the North Lawrence School Board. I also serve on the Boys and Girls Club of Lawrence County Board. I also chair the Directors Advisory Board for the North Lawrence Career Center. I've lived in Bedford since 1990. I'm married to my wife, Karen. I have 4 sons, all of whom attended North Lawrence schools. I've retired from Tri-County Builders. I've worked in construction all of my life. I also taught at the North Lawrence Career Center, only then it was the vocational school. And I worked with Charlie Wagner in the building trades program. My reason for running for the school board, again, is to see a couple of things. We went through the consolidation. I believe that this was a needed thing in many ways. We have teachers that are being underpaid. I'd like to see the pay increased. I would also like to see some new programs added to the North Lawrence Career Center. We have an opportunity to add several new programs to the Career Center. Also, we have some buildings that have HVAC issues. I'd like to see those addressed over the next few years. And my main goal for running is just to see improvement and North Lawrence Community Schools moving forward in the direction that they need to move. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tracy Bailey.
Good evening. I'd like to also thank the North Lawrence Education Association for allowing us to have this forum to be able to discuss and to talk. My name is Tracy Bailey. I was born and raised in Lawrence County. I'm a 1985 graduate of Bedford North Lawrence High School. I married my childhood sweetheart, Tammy Smith Bailey, and we've been married for 31 years. We've raised 7 children. All 7 of them have graduated from Bedford North Lawrence High School. I previously served 1 term on the North Lawrence Community School Board in 2013 to 2017. I did not seek re-election at that time because I had a child that was getting an education degree, and I wanted them to have the opportunity to be able to get a job with North Lawrence Community Schools if that was their desire. I'm currently the Vice President of Owen County State Bank, which we are housed here in Bedford. I've owned a business in my life and sold that in 2015. I've been very involved in the community over the years. I've been on the Limestone Girls Club Board, the Bedford Chamber of Commerce Board, the Parks Department Board, advisory committee at the Stonebridge Health Campus, member of the Rotary Club International, been on the board of the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, as well as the JC's Exchange Club, been a Scoutmaster, a Cub Master, and volunteered coaching for many, many years at the Boys Club. Several people have asked me why I would seek re-election on a board that I once was on, especially in the climate that we have today. I've told them each one the same thing every time. I feel that honest, qualified people need to run for public office. And that if they don't, then oftentimes what's left are those individuals that are seeking either pet projects or have their own axe to grind. I want to be able to help guide North Lawrence Community Schools to place pride in our community, that we are seen as the standard among other schools in the state of Indiana. I want us to be looked at not just as the standard, but also not to be looked at as an example of what not to do. There are many challenges that we've had over the last several years, and they've taken a toll on our school corporation. I want to be able to help create that positive change going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Ed Bay.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the NLEA for hosting this event. My name's Edward Bay. I am a resident of Bedford since 1991, married to my sweet wife Tammy for what will be 40 years in March. We have 2 grown sons, both of whom graduated from B&L. I was retired until the beginning of this year, and suddenly I got a job. I don't know how that happened, but I did. Our North Lawrence Community School system is broken. It doesn't, the goals of the school board and the superintendent don't line up with the mission of the school system. We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars needlessly. Our teachers, we've lost more than 100 employees since January of this year. Most of those were teachers. Our school is graded at a C- statewide. And that has continued for as long as I can remember. I believe the only way to make a positive difference in that is to change the folks in leadership. That begins with the school board and moves on to the superintendent. Our superintendent consistently compares our school system to Columbus, North Vernon, Brownsburg. All of those systems score an A+, while we score C-. And that's why I'm running. I'd like to see some improvement in the academics at North Lawrence schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Mr. William Deckard.
Hi, my name is William Deckard. I go by Jim Deckard. I'm a lifelong resident in Lawrence County, graduated Bedford North Lawrence. I attended Oakland City College and Ivy Tech. I took courses in business, building trades, along with some other things. I'm a commercial diver and underwater welder for the Navy. I currently own 4 businesses here in Lawrence County and employ numerous people that still currently work for me. I would like to see that the NLCS do a lot better than what's going on, and I think there needs to be time that the board needs to be changed out, along with some other things with teachers need better pay and other things that need to be taken care of. I would hope that you would vote for me for numerous reasons versus some people that are on the board that need to be taken off. Thanks.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Mr. Jeremy Gilbert. You have 2 minutes.
First off, I'd like to thank the NLEA for sponsoring this and allowing us to come up here and talk about current issues and issues that involve our school system. My name is Jeremy Gilbert, and I am currently on the board. I've currently served 1 term. I am married. My wife is Hillary. She's an elementary school teacher here in this corporation. I have 3 children, all of whom are going through the NLCS school system. I graduated from high school at B&L. I went to college to be a teacher, in fact. I have an elementary education degree, and I can teach middle school as well. My career path went in a different direction. Some of the reasons why we're here today to try to increase teacher pay, staff pay, and things like that. So for me to run 4 years ago and today, I have similar reasons why I wanted to run. I like to see positive change. I think almost everyone up here will say about the same thing. But what I saw 4 years ago is we weren't changing very fast, if at all. I feel like in the last 4 years, and specifically in the last 2, we have made positive changes. Some of it wasn't, went over particularly well, but it was for good reason. We're not going to be able to pay our teachers, our staff, what we think we should pay without making some of these positive changes. We're 5 to 10, in some cases $15,000 difference on the pay scale as other communities. So that's a big reason why I ran last time, and I'd like to run again to try to help change this. And I don't want to see our community be maybe average. I want us to excel and be one of the best communities around. And by being that, we have to have great, strong schools. So thank you.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Mr. Ken Hackney.
Good evening. Thank you to the NLES for hosting this forum. My name is Ken Hackney. I graduated from Bedford High School in 1969 and then got an industrial engineering degree at Purdue in 1973. I'm married to Kathy Hackney, and we have one daughter, Joanna Cobb. She graduated from here in 1997 and is presently a teacher at Olytic. I retired from GM Powertrain after 39.5 years. I've been involved for many, many years at the Boys Club, was a founding member of the Community Baptist Fellowship, and I'm presently a member of the Board of Directors of Lawrence County Museum. I'm running for the school board because I believe everything the board and administration does must be aimed at providing the highest quality education and character development for our students. That is the mission of NLCS. I believe when elected, a board member is a trustee of the community and must be accessible and willing to collaborate with all members of the community, including the NLCS staff and teachers. There should be an open dialogue between these groups and information shared so decisions are understood before they are announced. I want to personally hear from the teachers and staff which obstacles are hindering them in the performance of their many jobs and how the board can help. The teachers and staff will always have a voice through me. I'm a very detail-oriented person. I believe the board needs to identify where we are not proficient and then set specific, relevant, attainable, and measurable goals to reach proficiency within a defined time period. The board and the administration must provide the students, teachers, and staff the tools and materials required to reach the identified targets. It's necessary for the goals to include, above all, educational objectives. Next in line is our teachers' morale and well-being. I want to see our teachers properly compensated for the difficult jobs that they face daily. This will always be a top priority for me. A contented teacher leads to enhanced academic and character development. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker to come to the podium, Mr. Jeff Lombrick.
I'd like to thank the NLEA for putting this on so that the voters can hear what we're thinking about and what just who we are. And so, my name is Jeff Lombrick. I am a lifelong resident of Lawrence County. I graduated from Bedford North Lawrence High School and the Career Center. My wife, Melissa, we've been married for 29 years, and she's an elementary teacher in North Lawrence Community Schools. I have 4 daughters, 3 of which have graduated from Bedford North Lawrence High School, and the other one is an 8th grader at BMS. I'm running because I want to bring Lawrence County values back to the board. I think that we've made some decisions that were well, I'm not going to say they're bad decisions, but maybe they were hastily made. Maybe we should have stopped and looked at some more facts and taken our time and made some decisions. So I'm wanting to bring common sense values and Lawrence County values back to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Mr. George McNichols.
Thank you. Hello, I'm George McNichols. I'd like to thank the NLEA for the opportunity to come and speak today. I want you to know that I'm not running because I'm angry. I'm running because I'm excited. I attended NLCS for my K through 12 education and graduated in 2000. I went on to Purdue. And following college, I moved on to another town. I'm excited for my kids to be attending the same schools that I attended. Currently, I have one child enrolled in the Playful Pathways School, as well as another in diapers. So I'm going to be involved with NLCS for the foreseeable future. I believe in the goodness of this community, and I want to see Lawrence County made great in using education as the vehicle. I moved away from Lawrence County following college, but I came back with my wife to start and raise a family in a community that I care deeply about. I've suggested that we have a community survey to use community input to formulate a 1-, 3-, and 5-year plan for the school system and for the school board. This will establish a collective community vision and buy-in for the school system. My focus, as a member of the school board, will be to improve schools, enhance the quality of education, and increase opportunities for our young people. All of these add to the core value of our community. The goals and guiding principles of my tenure on the school board will be to heighten student experience and raise school ratings. Better schools mean better communities, and great schools equal great opportunities. I'm available on Facebook and Gmail at McNichols for School Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker to the podium is Miss Wendy Miller.
Hello, my name is Dr. Wendy Trueblood Miller, and first I would also like to thank the NLEA for presenting this forum and also our community for being so invested in this race. I think it says a lot about our community with the attention that it's getting. I am a lifelong resident of Lawrence County. I grew up in Judah. I went to Needmore Elementary, Olytic, and then I graduated from BNL in 2000 with George. And I am married to Tim, and I have 2 children. Amelia is 18 and a 2020 grad of BNL, and then my son Rowan is 10. And I went to IU after finishing high school here, became a registered nurse with a bachelor's degree, got my master's degree, and am a clinical nurse specialist. And in 2011, I finished my PhD, and am currently an associate professor of nursing at the IU School of Nursing, where I teach undergraduate, grad, and graduate students, and I also have my own independent program of research. So why I'm running for school board is with 3 things in mind, and broadly those are to restore the transparency, the accountability, and professionalism to the board. And more specifically, I am interested in making decisions that are based on data to ensure that all kids in our system, regardless of their learning ability, regardless of their address, their socioeconomic status, their race, have the same opportunities as everyone else. I'm not as fixated on equity of outcomes as the current administration is, but more on equity of opportunity. Secondly, I believe that we need to retain and recruit the best teachers and support staff and school counselors who have a really special role right now in the midst of a pandemic. And this isn't just salary support, this is returning the professionalism, the autonomy, and the support to teachers. And teachers can't do their jobs without the support staff either. So that is an area where I believe we need to really invest. And finally, I am really interested in reestablishing the open communication between the school board and the community. If you elect me, I am your representative, and I don't want you to just hear from me, but I want to hear from you also. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Miss Janice Nico Pendergrass. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon or good evening. Thank you, North Lawrence Education Association. My name is Janice Nicole Pendergrass, and I have been in Bedford, Indiana for 28 years. I am the founder director of Bertha's Mission, a nonprofit organization that serves over 20,000 meals a year. And that is partly a reason why I am here today, to serve our community. I believe that part of our problem that we have had in our community in the North Lawrence is that we have forgotten about the people that we serve. And that's where we've lost connection at. We forget that the people, when we make our decisions on the school board, that we have an impact. And when we start making these decisions, we have to start thinking about the people. And so now, as a school board member that I plan on being, I am hoping to come to the board with decision-making as far as trying to make the right decisions that affect our community, our teachers, our students. I want us to start thinking about, when we do this, who are we impacting nowadays? Are we making the decisions just because we are on the board and it has no effect on us when we go home at night? When we do this, do we, as the school board, do we say it doesn't matter because we live in a different community? No, that's not the answer. We have to start thinking about the answers when we leave. Are we making the right decisions? My husband is a pastor out in Tunnelton, Indiana. That's partly another reason why I made this decision. I thought about those children that are out there in the rural communities that do not have internet. It's great that we sit up and we think about the Chromebooks. Fine. That's great that we have Chromebooks. Chromebooks are no good without internet. What are the decisions that we make? I would like for us to start thinking about not the past, but the future. That's my decision.
Thank you. Our next speaker to come to the podium is Mr. Brian Pemberton. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Brian Pemberton, and I too would like to thank the North Lawrence Education Association for having the candidates here tonight for the forum. And I would also like to thank my fellow candidates on the stage with me tonight. It isn't easy to put yourself out there for public consumption, so they should be commended for that. I'm a lifelong Lawrence County resident. I'm married with 3 sons. 2 of those sons currently attend North Lawrence Community Schools. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in accounting from Franklin College, and I have a Master's in Business Administration and Finance from Ball State University. I've also volunteered for various boards over the years, such as the Bedford Area Chamber of Commerce Board. I was the treasurer on the Thornton Memorial Boys Club Board. I was also on the Boys and Girls Club of Lawrence County Board. I'm a current member of the IU Health Quality and Safety Board. I was also on the NLCS Visionary Committee, and I've coached youth baseball and basketball teams for 20+ years. The reasons why I'm running, one, as I mentioned, I have 2 sons in the school system, so I have a vested interest, and I want to see the best education and opportunities possible for all NLCS students. Secondly, as I mentioned, I have a background in accounting and finance, and I think for a school system struggling financially that my education and experience can make a positive impact. I've had 30+ years working at area manufacturing companies in accounting and finance. Thirdly, as I also mentioned, I was on the NLCS Visionary Committee. Our goal was to lay out a path forward financially to help increase teacher compensation and to, just improve the overall system from a financial standpoint. So with that, I'd ask for your vote this November. Thank you.
Thank you. Before this program began, the community was asked to submit questions to these candidates. Those questions have then been sorted and pared down by NLEA School Board Forum team members. Similar questions and content have been combined. There will be no more than 11 questions asked of each candidate tonight. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer each question. Each candidate will have up to 1 minute to answer the question. And again, time is being monitored and a bell will ding when the time is up. If the bell is disregarded, the microphone will be cut. We will rotate through the candidates so that each candidate has the opportunity to be the first and last to answer a question. Our first speaker to come to the microphone for questions will be Mr. Arnold, and the program will continue to his left and end with Mr. Pemberton. Mr. Arnold, to the podium, and I'll draw your question. This is the same question that will be asked of each of you. What are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
Well, first of all, a lot of the opportunity happens just right up the hill where you work. We have a very good career center. We went through a rough time a few years ago. We have a great director up there now. We've added new programs. Another thing that's very positive has been the Playful Pathways that has been added. Also, the Gateway Academy that is keeping students that would otherwise be expelled from school in school and graduating and getting their getting an opportunity to work in the community and also to get some hands-on experience. The other thing that I think has been very positive has been the Empire Academy. This is something that the board pushed for a long time. It's a reality now, and I'm proud to see these things happening for our students. Looking forward for more opportunities for them.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey? Would you like for me to repeat the question?
Please.
What are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
So I believe that some of the most positive things that we have is the love that people have for this community. There are those that are negative. There are those that want to find the negative things about our community. But we have a lot of people that love our community, and we have a lot of good teachers. We're one of the, if not the largest, one of the largest employers in Lawrence County. And we have a lot of teachers that put a lot of effort and pride into what they're doing. With COVID coming along, there's a lot of negative things to be seen. However, there are a lot of positive things with the being able to approach teaching from a different direction. I was on the board when we brought in Chromebooks, and one of the concerns that I had was, would we be able to use them? And now we've been forced to use them. And we're finding that there are some great things happening with what the teachers are being able to do, and they will continue to get better and better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Next to the podium for the question, Mr. Ed Bay. Mr. Bay, what are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
If we can keep them, I believe we have one of the best teaching staffs in the state. But they have to have support. As I said before, my two boys graduated from here, and both of them have fond memories of some of the great teachers that impacted their lives over the years. Ms. Turner, who's since retired, and others just really made a positive impact. We need to encourage those teachers, provide them with what they need to succeed so that they can in turn help our students succeed. It's not all about athletics. It's time to move back to academics and help these kids get ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bay. Mr. Deckard, what are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
I think the positive things are the teachers. They are wanting a change, and along with everybody else that's in the community, everything that's happened between the school closures and stuff that's happening in there, everybody just needs to move forward and not look backwards. With me being on there, I hope that that happens. I just think that there just needs to be a change.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, what are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
I think we have several positive aspects for youth in our school system. First and foremost, we need to figure out how to keep our kids engaged and in school safely and effectively. And I think it first goes to the teachers and staff, and I think they're doing a tremendous job in allowing and helping kids, and the kids are doing a great job too with COVID to keep kids in school now. But to keep kids in school in the future, I think we have started programs just like the Empire Academy. If kids if they don't fit the mold as some kids, they can go outside and they can have education through an online learning. Also, we have playful pathways that can get kids started early on in school. I think our community is a great community, and I feel like we are starting the path forward to help the kids. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Hackney, what are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
Well, I agree with what everybody said so far, especially the Career Center. I remember growing up as a kid where on every corner you could find a service station and 2 mechanics working in there, and you get a starter change for $25, and now it costs $250, and somebody's making that money, and the Career Center teaches these kids a good living, a good way to make a living. I also think we have a very dedicated teachers force. They wouldn't stay here for the pay they're getting if they weren't dedicated, and I would like to do everything I can to see that they're remunerated and get what they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombrick, what are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
I would echo everyone's sentiments. I think that our teachers, our staff in general, I mean, our bus drivers, our maintenance people, our aides, everyone does a really good job. You know, no one here is really overpaid. Everybody does it for the love of the kids. I've drove the bus for a couple of years, and it's been interesting to learn what that group of people is. I mean, they don't want to leave anybody behind. They take care of their kids. They love their kids. And I think that's how our staff is everywhere. I think our teachers, our bus drivers, everybody cares about our kids. And I think that is probably our best. Just the people that work for North Lawrence Community Schools are just a wonderful group. And I would say the vocational school is a great opportunity. So many kids don't need to go to college to learn how to make a good living. If they just get a trade, a vocation, and then they can go out into the workforce and make a good living. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. McNichols. What are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
Well, firstly, the teachers are the greatest asset to this school system, without question. The people of this community are happy to be here. I mean, this is a good community. This is an enjoyable place. There's a reason people continue to be here when other opportunities avail themselves. I think one of the things that we can really focus on is to optimize the online learning experience that is enjoyed by our students now because of the push that we've had due to COVID. The other thing is there are opportunities here for employment by good local businesses. And we have the Career Center as well as our standard education, which can really help to our students to capitalize on the opportunities that are afforded to them in this community and keep some of those great individuals here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, what are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
Well, the first thing I think is the kids in our system are amazing and resilient, especially during this challenging time. I think we have seen them rise up and get through things sometimes better than we do. So I'd say the kids, the students first. Our teachers and support staff, which everybody has talked about, And I also want to talk a little bit about the arts in our system. My daughter graduated from here. We have a really good choir orchestra program, an amazing drama club if your kids are not involved in that. And she is, and marching band too. Our marching band is amazing. My daughter is currently in college for an arts degree and was prepared and really encouraged by experiences that she had in this system. So I would say our arts are another strong point. Also, the Career Center. And in terms of opportunities for our youth in the community, I have to put in a plug for Little Theater of Bedford, where I'm a board member. We have lots of youth programs, and then also our Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you. Next up, Ms. Nico Pendergrass. What are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
I think our teachers are truly the greatest, and I think we have some of the most fantastic students. I am very impressed with Gateway Academy because Gateway Academy children have been some of the volunteers at Bertha's Mission. I love how they, the teachers work with them, and they came in and they have volunteered their services, and I was so impressed with how they gave so willingly with their hearts. I'm also impressed with the teachers that had taken time and the staff that work with them, because it is so interesting how they have taken so much of, not only when we thought that they were the left behind, they're the ones that gave the most. Also, I thought that our Career Center, as Sister, and I refer to her as Sister Wendy mentioned, our Career Center has really birthed some really good kids from here. My daughter, Patshana, was one of the students that came from here as well and went on to Indianapolis School and was ahead of her class in Indianapolis.
Thank you. Mr. Pemberton, to the podium, please. What are some positive aspects you view about the North Lawrence Corporation and the opportunities for youth in the county?
Well, after hearing the question 12 times, the thing that keeps running through my mind are my two sons and the opportunities that they've had since coming to NLCS about 9 years ago. I've kind of got the tale of two sons, really. My oldest son is a senior this year. He's going to be at the top of his class, and he's probably going to take 32 credit hours of college with him when he graduates, which is an excellent opportunity. And then my youngest son likes to take machining classes at the Career Center. And I work for companies that have good paying jobs in machining or welding or PLC programming for robotics. So the skilled trades are also important to give kids opportunities here locally. And in addition to that, when they were in elementary school, they had opportunities for math and spell bowl and athletics that they didn't have previously. Thank you.
Mr. Bailey? Mr. Bailey, a large number of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions during the public meetings in October of 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
So this is a very challenging question. For those that have never sat on the school board, you come at it from a very different direction than those of us that have sat on the school board. You're overrun by information oftentimes, and I feel like it's important that when you elect someone to the position of school board, you're electing that individual that you can trust, that you are going to look to be able to take all of the information and be able to boil it down into a way that'll be understandable. Knowing that you may never have all of the information personally, but the person that you've elected to that position does have the information and is making the best decision with that information. So having said that, I do think it's important that that information is shared to the level that it can be, that people need to be comfortable when the decisions, that it wasn't a rushed decision or it wasn't done for reasons that maybe aren't understood by others. So the challenge is, how do you balance that? And I think you balance that by giving as much information as you can, but yet being able to keep that information that may not be as useful to the general public away from them as it can be.
Thank you. Mr. Bay, to the podium, please. A large number of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions during the public meetings in October of 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
In order to restore trust between the school board and the public, I believe the school board's going to have to become a better listener than they are a talker. And the public is going to have to see that the school board moves when they speak. It doesn't mean that they have to do everything that the public says, but it does mean that they have to consider what the public says. Oftentimes, they can't do what the public says. Not because they don't want to, but because there are some other limits on what they're able to do. But when they become a good listener, all of them, and they take into consideration what the public has to say, I believe the trust will be restored. Thank you.
Mr. Deckard, a large number of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions during the public meetings in October of 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
First of all, just transparency, making sure everybody can see what's going on and not hiding anything. Everything that has kind of went on, people have kind of hid behind a lot of things. There should be an open door policy where people can see what's going on and hear what's going on. Closed doors and this good old boy system, just shaking hands and doing whatever they want to do has got to stop. I mean, everybody's just not doing what they said that they were going to do, and people elected these people to be on this board, and they're going back against their word. So.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert? A large number of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions during the public meetings in October of 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
Thank you. It's never been my intention to be opaque. When I ran 4 years ago, that was a big reason why I wanted to run. I wanted to be a voice for the community, and I feel like I have been. I'd be willing to say that I probably talked to more teachers and just as many people in the community than anybody that's ever been on the board. I understand that people feel like that there were things being hidden or hidden agendas, but I can assure you there wasn't. Just like Mr. Bailey said, you have to elect someone who you trust. And I'm hopeful that you still put your trust in me, because every decision that I've made on the board is to help the kids in our school system, or help the teachers help the kids in our school system. So, you know, we're just trying to drive this train to be just a better system for our kids. So, I mean, I welcome anyone to come and contact me. In fact, you can email me or call me. It was in the newspaper last Saturday. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Hackney, a large group of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions during the public meetings in October of 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
Well, what I'd like to see is to open those lines of communication. Instead of allowing the school board not to address the people that are there, I think we should ask them some questions. We need to know their concerns. It seems like we are hiding things when we just sit there and people stare with a blank look on their faces. So I would like to open those lines of communication. People are welcome to call me, email me, text me, any way to get a hold of me, and I will promise that I will always let them know what I can let them know, and will be honest with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombrick, a large number of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions during the public meetings in October of 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
Well, I was on the board eight years ago, so I served 2 terms, and I know that some things cannot be discussed. Personnel can't be discussed with the public. You know, there are other things that the state dictates that we cannot discuss. But the things that can be discussed, we need to be transparent. We need to get public input. You know, I'm very approachable, always have been, and I just want people to bring their problems to me, and I will get to the bottom of them and just get the information out there as best we can so everybody knows what's going on, what the board's, you know, considering and how things are going, and just get more information out there to the public and be available to them to answer their questions to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Mr. McNichols, a large number of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions during the public meetings in October of 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
What really needs to happen is we need to have community buy-in. We need to collectively commit to our path forward, both the school board and the community, and then as a whole, we can move in that direction. I have suggested that we have a community survey and speak to and get the opinions from the community, as well as have a quarterly newsletter in which we would discuss and advise the public on upcoming activities, as well as discuss previous decisions.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, a large number of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions during the public meetings in October of 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
Well, first I would say that I agree that the opaqueness is a problem, and I've been very vocal about this, particularly when teachers are told that they're not allowed to speak, or staff members are not allowed to speak directly to the board. And I have had instances where I have not been answered by board members, or I've been answered in a way that wasn't meaningful. And there have also been times when I have been answered, and so I don't want to cast a blanket on everyone, but when that rule went into effect, I'm very much in disagreement about it. And there's a reason that you see such passionate dissent from our community regarding some of these changes, and it is because they did not have the ability to communicate. School board members are leaders, and in this position, I would take on a position of authentic leadership, which means it would be based on trust and relationships. I would reach out to constituents and ask them what they wanted from me instead of just telling them what I wanted. So if you email me, you call me, you text me, you send me a letter, I guarantee you that you'll hear back from me if elected.
Thank you. Ms. Nico Pendergrass. A large number of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions during public meetings in October of 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
First, let me apologize for appearing to be nervous. I am nervous. This is my first appearance in doing this. So let me start by saying I'm going to do what I've been doing this last couple of weeks. I believe that the school board and I should get out there in the community, talk to everyone that is involved. Go out there, talk to your teachers. Go out there, talk to your students. I've also spoken with Mr. Mungle, take time to find out what the concerns are from those people. Talk to the board members. Find out all the answers. We can't just go out on a limb and think we know the answers. I do not know what it's like to be on the board, but when I'm on the board, it's my job to make the right decisions, to represent the people. And I keep looking at you, and I'm thinking, okay, gotta cut my answer short. But it is my job to ask the people, what are your concerns? Then I come out there and I tell you, this is what I'm going to do. So that's what I would do.
Thank you. Mr. Pemberton, a large number of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions in the public meetings of October 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
Thank you. As Tracy alluded to, that's a challenging question, and you have to trust your elected leaders, but you have to be available for your constituents. I'm not sure what led to that. I think it was the 1-minute rule where people were allowed 1 minute to speak at one point, and that's probably to expedite meetings, and I can only imagine what the board members went through during the school closures. I'm sure they were overwhelmed at times with people not happy with them. But with that said, I feel like I've ran an open, honest campaign. I've not hid from any of the issues. I've tried to get out in front of them. I've put out videos. I've answered all the comments that have been asked of me, some tough questions, and I've answered those, and I feel like I could do that going forward, and just being open and honest with people. And, you know, when you're in public office, you have to be available too. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, a large number of citizens in the community feel as if the school board has become intentionally opaque in the last 2 years, particularly when the board implemented a policy of not answering questions during the public meetings in October of 2019, just ahead of the public release of consolidation plans. What do you intend to do to restore openness and trust between the school board and the general public?
Well, I would intend to do the same thing I've always done. My wife really doesn't like going to the grocery store with me because it generally turns into her shopping and me talking to people about school board issues. I don't know what the official board policy is, but my policy is that any teacher, staff member that wants to talk to me is welcome to talk to me. And many have talked to me. I have several text messages, I have emails. I don't know why there is an unwritten policy that teachers aren't allowed to, and staff members aren't allowed to talk to board members, but I believe that we need to have open, honest dialogue. I have always been very good at answering questions, and I will continue to do so. And that's my policy, and that's the policy that I'm going to stick with.
Thank you. Mr. Bay, to the podium, please. Mr. Bay, since morale is very low with teachers across the district-wide because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings in the past, more con rumors on the horizon, and very low pay compared to other nearby corporations, what are your plans to help increase morale? Please give a plan and not promises.
For the teachers, I think you would have to bring them into a setting like this one, and be willing to spend the time and effort here to answer every teacher's question, to address them directly. And if you don't know, tell them you don't know. Don't give them lip service. Don't try and talk around the issue. Don't say that you have to check with someone else. If you don't know, say I don't know. Find out what the answer is and get back to them. everyone is comforted, not just teachers, when they know that the person they work for is there for them if they need them. And when they don't, they're not around. I think we have a great teaching staff, and we need to take what they have to say in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deckard, since morale is very low with teachers across the district because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings, and more con rumors in the horizon, and very low pay compared to other corporations nearby, what are your plans to help increase morale? Please give plan and not promises.
Hopefully with the new board, this will change. The morale within the teachers is very low because the superintendent and the board's failure to listen to what's going on with the teachers. I'm hoping to change that, and I'm also hoping to change that we can look at their pay because it's lower than everyone around us. There's no reason why we should be losing teachers like what we are losing. So if we have low morale, then how is that going to affect, our students as wanting to be able to learn because our teachers' morale's low? So.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, since morale is very low with teachers across the district because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings, more con rumors in the horizon, and very low pay compared to other corporations nearby, what are your plans to help increase morale? Please give a plan, not promises.
Good question. I live with the teachers, so I hear about the morale every night. I think we need to make sure teachers and our staff feel appreciated. That's not a plan. That's what we need to do. We need to make sure they feel appreciated and have the tools that they need to help our kids. As far as pay and compensation, that's a big driver in what we've done in the last year is to do that for them. We don't want them to feel like they're unappreciated and want to go to a different school system to make maybe $5,000, $10,000 to $15,000 more and feel appreciated. We want to do that here. We want to keep our great teachers here, and that's the plan going forward. So, yeah, I hear it every night what teachers need and what they feel would help benefit them and the students. So, I mean, I listen every day to them. So, good question.
Thank you. Mr. Hackney, since morale is very low with teachers across the district because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings, more con rumors in the horizon, and very low pay compared to other corporations nearby, what are your plans to help increase morale? Please give a plan, not a promise.
Well, one of the biggest issues right now that the teachers have is prep time. Many of them are not having any prep time at all or even lunchtime. I think we need to give the teachers a voice. And there is a policy in place, and it is written. It's Policy 3112 that says teachers can't talk to the school board. And matter of fact, you can be accused of unethical conduct if you do talk to the school board, and it doesn't matter who initiates that conversation. And I don't know if the school board will back those teachers. So I want to give those teachers a voice, let them come and talk to the school board and let them know that we'll help them. We also need to get our elected officials involved. And since a lot of the money we get for teacher salary comes from the state, we need to see what we can to get that budget increased. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombrick, since morale is very low with teachers across the district because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings, more con rumors in the horizon, and very low pay compared to other corporations nearby, what are your plans to help increase morale? Please give a plan, not promises.
Well, I will tell you that I don't have a plan. I think that's the board's job is to create a plan. And as a member of the board, if elected, I think that we need to increase their pay, and I know that it's tough. I was on the board several years ago, and I know our funding's short, but we've just got to find ways to do it. Maybe we tighten our belt somewhere else, make an adjustment here or there. I'm not sure what it is, but we have to find a way to pay them more. And then the environment in which they teach. I know that some schools are a lot more fun to teach in than others. And I think that starts at the top with the administration. I think that has to trickle down to where all of our administrators are trying to make a great environment for their students and their teachers to work in and to learn in. And that would be my hope, is that we could work with the administration down and get that worked out. So, you know, it's not all about the money. Sometimes you're making okay money, but you're just miserable because your job situation isn't pleasant. And I think that that can be adjusted. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McNichols, since morale is very low with teachers across district-wide because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings, more con rumors in the horizon, and very low pay compared to other corporations, thank you.
Yeah, all right. Everybody, this is a complicated issue, and this doesn't have one single solution. And I can't promise exactly what that solution is going to be. But I can tell you that it's going to be a collective decision with the community and the school board. The one thing we can do is prove to the educators and the school staff that we care about what's going on by pursuing grants and other opportunities that are made available to us.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, since morale is very low with teachers across district-wide because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings, more con rumors in the horizon, and very low pay compared to other corporations nearby, what are your plans to help increase morale? Please give a plan, not promises.
Well, first, I would co-sign on what Ken said about getting rid of the policy that does exist in the school board that does not allow tax-paying teachers to talk to the school board, and I know that people have been reprimanded for that, and so I think obviously we're not doing what our teachers need if they're not allowed to talk to us, so that would be number one. Number two would be to treat them as the expert professionals that they are, no more chipping away at the morale, telling what they can and can't have in their classrooms, and also giving them the resources that they need, particularly our special ed teachers, who right now, our system is in some cases breaking the law because we do not have enough aides to support our special ed teachers. I think also eliminating the need for our teachers to crowdsource their own books, their own disinfectants. All of those things are things that I would tackle immediately, but most importantly, I would talk to the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nico Pendergrass. Since morale is very low with teachers across district-wide because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings, more con rumors in the horizon, and very low pay compared to other corporations nearby, what are your plans to help increase morale? Please give structured plan and not promises.
I would like to create a plan where our teachers do feel free that they can come and speak with the board, because we do need to hear from our teachers and see what their needs are and address those needs. I also think that we should find ways, as mentioned earlier, that maybe since we can find grants for other things, we find grants to help them to have the necessary tools in order for them to go forward and do the job that we're asking them to do. I think that we also need to find ways that we can provide teachers aids for them. Also, as far as like with schooling, when they have to do their cleaning and all the other things they do, we should have the custodians coming in to help them so that they're able to do teaching, not cleaning.
Thank you. Mr. Pemberton, since morale is very low with teachers across district-wide because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings, more con rumors in the horizon, and very low pay compared to other corporations nearby, what are your plans to help increase morale? Please give plans, not promises.
Thank you. I agree with George that a lot of things impact morale. Having been on the visionary committee, you know, I voted for the plan that got us down to 1 middle school and 3 elementary schools. And the reason is, if you're going to go through that pain and agony, just go through it one time so that you can reach the goals that we had laid out, which, you know, 82% of the budget's for wages and benefits. And so we do want to increase pay and pay a competitive wage to our teachers and staff, but also invest in their professional development. I can only imagine that would increase morale is by investing in their professional development to, you know, learn new techniques and things of that nature, but also, you know, by going down to fewer schools, you have more teachers at a certain grade level within each grade, and so they can collaborate and implement best practices. And I think that that would help improve our results and increase morale too. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, since morale is very low with teachers across district-wide because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings, more con rumors in the horizon, and very low pay compared to other corporations nearby, what are your plans to help increase morale? Please give a plan, not promises.
Well, my plan would be to continue what we did last year, and that is to give teachers an increase. Since we have shut some buildings down, we have some additional funds that should be available for teacher raises. My plan will also be to provide more professional development for them. As far as aides, we have a limited amount of money for aides, and you know, we also have a hard time finding aides. With the 28-hour work week, it's a little difficult to find aides, but we need to develop a plan to find more qualified support staff, and part of that is increased pay also. But my plan is, and has always been, to support teachers and to give them what they need as best North Lawrence can.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, since morale is very low with teachers across district-wide because of stress, uncertainty of closing buildings, more con rumors in the horizon, and very low pay compared to other corporations nearby, what are your plans to help increase morale? Please give plans, not promises.
I've been very clear, both the first time that I ran and this time. It is very vital that the board understand their responsibilities and roles, and the administration understands theirs. The board is there to look up and out, and the administrator is there to look down and in. The board can do very little when it comes to morale. However, we can hold the administrators accountable for what the plan is. And for me, that's what needs to happen more than anything, is that the plan needs to be put in place, the board needs to approve that plan, and then the board needs to basically put the administrator's feet to the fire. I've been in several situations over the board in years past where that's exactly what we did, and we asked. When it was asked of us what we should do, the answer was, you made the plan, you follow through with it, you make sure that it's successful. As a board member, that's what I will continue to do.
Thank you. Mr. Deckard, it's your question first this time. How would you plan on improving education for all students at NLCS, including our gifted and talented students?
That'd be a tough one. It's like, we need our teachers that are better educated, and also for them to learn more. And we need the more funding for them so they can go out there and get the education that they need for the future, because there's new things that are arising. I think that our students with this e-learning are not doing a very good job at it. There could be a lot of things that need to be changed upon that I see.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, how would you plan on improving education for all students at NLCS, including our gifted and talented students?
I think we need to continue to try to support our teachers. We need to give them a path to go to, especially for our gifted students and our students who are falling a little bit below, on average, students who have IEPs and such. I think sometimes they're not totally sure, or maybe they don't know the vision as to what they're supposed to do with that class, or with some students with IEPs. And I think we need to, as a board and as an administration, probably need to do a better job of giving them direction on that. And I know when I ran 4 years ago, that was one of my biggest issues, were making sure that kids don't fall through the cracks. I don't think, in my opinion, as many are, but I know there are still some there, and we need to continue making progress on the gifted and the kids who are needing more help. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Hackney, how would you plan on improving education for all students at NLCS, including our gifted and talented students?
Well, I agree with what Jeremy said, that we need to train the staff, and we need to have the counselors in place and so the students know what's out there. A lot of students don't know the opportunities that are available to them, and unless they go and ask the people that know. And so I believe we give the education to the staff as well as to the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombrick, how would you plan on improving education for all students at NLCS, including our gifted and talented students?
I think that it's the staff. I think we need to educate our staff, and we need to put our staff in the right places. Some of our staff excel with the gifted and talented children, and others, like the other children, that are worried about the kids that are falling through the cracks. I mean, some people just have a heart for those kids. I think to get our staff in the right places and our kids in the right classes, I think that we can do a good job for all students if we can just get our staff on board and get them in their place where they can make the most difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McNichols, how would you plan on improving education for all? All right.
All right. As a parent of someone who qualifies for an IEP, I take this personally. When it comes to special education, the aides carry a lot of the burden, but you have to look into the fact that currently we have a position open for an aide. It's 28 hours a week, and I believe it's $10.70 an hour. It might be $11.70 an hour. My apologies if that's the case. Currently, McDonald's is hiring for $14 an hour, and there's benefits involved. I mean, so we gotta, as far as that end of the spectrum is concerned, there's a lot of burden that falls on the special ed aides and all the aides. But if we're not going to pay them very well, I don't know exactly what we expect to have. Furthermore, B&L is a great school that offers a lot of advanced classes. We have collegiate credit that we offer here at the school. We are doing a big part of that many other communities that are this size do not offer.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, how would you plan on improving education for all students at NLCS, including our gifted and talented students?
Well, as a mom of a high ability student, I do very much appreciate this question. And when my son was at Parkview, part of the reason that I'm running today is because he was a high ability student who wasn't having his needs met. He was mostly being taught by aides. Aides are wonderful, but you need a licensed teacher specializing in high ability instruction. So as I said before, having equity of opportunities, that includes kids who are below the mean and above the mean. And what we need to do is look at other systems who are using evidence-based interventions, basically, to help these kids. There's some neighboring counties where they have an academy that moves right along with the other students, but all the high ability students are together, and they have certain teachers who are trained to teach specifically to their needs. So those are the things that I would do. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nico Pendergrass, how would you plan on improving, I hope I'm saying that correctly, how would you plan on improving education for all students at NLCS, including our gifted and talented students?
I think the plan I would try and implement would be to form a core group, and that group would consist of the teachers, the parents, the counselor, and possibly a social worker. I think that with all of those people in that core group, we would be able to identify that individual's student's needs.
Thank you. Mr. Pemberton, how would you plan on improving education for all students at NLCS, including our gifted and talented students?
Well, if I were elected to the board, I would be a financial guy surrounded by education experts. The superintendent, the administrative staff, the teachers, they're the experts in education, not me. And I agree with Tracy, you know, that's, to me, that's one of those things where a board member needs to stay in their lane and let the people that they hire and supervise do their jobs. You know, I would supplement anything they tell me with my own research just for confirmation, you know, always trust but verify. But I am a big believer in professional development, and I think that that can go a long way with helping improve education for all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, how would you plan on improving education for all students at NLCS, including our gifted and talented students?
Well, I think the most important thing is to listen to our experts, our teachers, our principals, our counselors, because I got to be honest with you, I don't know enough about it to be an expert or even be close to one. So I think we would do the same thing. We would continue to rely on those people that are professionals. And the other thing is I would also like to see us look at more programs, dual credit programs. We have several, and we keep continuing to add these, which gives our students a big advantage in going to college. And we have many opportunities out there for students, and I would like to continue to see us further these things. But as far as that, I would just have to defer that to our professionals.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, how would you plan on improving education for all students at NLCS, including our gifted and talented students?
Well, I think all the answers have been given, and I would concur with the fact that I'm not an educator. It is important that we put those people in the right positions and that we give them the tools necessary to make sure that they can be successful. We need to be able to identify those kids that maybe are at risk or that are higher learning needs. In order to do that, we need to make sure that it's on the front, it's on the radar. It's something that we're thinking about. It's something that we're not putting on the back burner. And I will say that oftentimes, as a member of the board, it seems like what is the most urgent thing? What fire needs to be put out today? What I want to get to is that we actually have a plan, that we actually put a plan in force, and everybody stays in their lane, and everybody's able to accomplish what they've set out to accomplish, as opposed to just running wild with your hair on fire trying to put out the most recent fire.
Thank you. And lastly, Mr. Bay, how would you plan on improving education for all students at NLCS, including our gifted and talented students?
I'm not in the system, so I really don't know the resources available to the board. But I do have the experience of my two children. And Becky Sprinkle was a guidance counselor here, and she was well-renowned, and all the students loved her. And during their time here, she spent the time necessary with them. My youngest son was a 12-year honor roll person, and the oldest was several years the same. And she spent the time necessary with them to help them move in the direction that they wanted to move in. And I think those are the kind of resources we need to develop and have here in the setting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, for our next leadoff question. It is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to the school board?
Well, I went to college to be a teacher. Unfortunately, I didn't go into that career path, so I went and I got a job at General Motors, where I eventually became a machine repairman, which is a skilled trade. So there's two aspects. I have an idea what teachers go through. I have a real good idea what they need via my wife, which is a school teacher. And also, I have tremendous faith in our Career Center. And I do know what it takes to have to get a job like that. And our Career Center offers some amazing classes, and we're continuing to offer more amazing classes for people who want to go into that, into a trade or be a nurse. Currently, I work for General Motors, and I'm the union safety rep. So I've taken a lot of safety classes. It's driven a little differently. It's for manufacturing, but I'm constantly thinking, what can we do to keep our kids safe in and outside of school buildings, whether it be for home or at school. So I think I can bring a diverse set of resources to the board.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Hackney, it is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to the school board?
Well, as I said before, I worked for General Motors for 39 and a half years, and I worked with diverse groups throughout my career there. And the best way I can think to bring that in there is you find the people that you know will train the right way, and let everybody know where everybody else is coming from. We have a lot of different cultures out there, and we need to get everybody's input. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombrick, it is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to the school board?
Well, I'm currently a business owner in Lawrence County. I've owned a business for over 15 years. I now own a farm in Lawrence County. We're doing some agritourism there, and I also work for Thorns Homes. So I have quite a range of occupations that I deal with, and so I get to talk to a lot of different folks and get a lot of different perspectives, and I think that's how I would bring the diversity to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McNichols, it is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to the school board?
As a white guy who grew up in Lawrence County, on paper, I don't bring a lot of diversity to the table. Now, with that said, the work that I currently do, I travel across the globe and work with the Marine Corps on a surveillance project. The Marine Corps is a beautiful thing in that there are people from all walks of life. So I work with individuals of all varieties on a constant basis, both in a training capacity as well as in a collective team capacity. So while I can't say on paper I have a whole lot of diversity in my background, I do have the ability to work within diverse environments and with a variety of individuals.
Thank you. Mrs. Miller, it is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to the school board?
Well, first of all, I am a woman, and I think there's definitely need for more representation of women. I'm very proud to be here with Janice, the only two women running, and we currently have one woman, Kirsten Collier, who is on the board, so I think that's the first way. Secondly, I am a college professor, and that gives me two unique viewpoints. Working with kids who are interested in going to college, I know that world, but I also can tell you from my experiences as a professor that not everybody needs to go to college. So I see it from both ways there. Thirdly, I'm a systems thinker. As a clinical nurse specialist and a nurse scientist, I'm always looking for the root cause analysis to do that instead of just treating symptoms. So, for instance, the declining enrollment that we have in our system is a symptom, and so really looking at what we can change for that. Thirdly, fourthly, I am a professional grant writer. That's what I do for a living. I write NIH grants, and so I would be happy to lend that ability to the school board and to the system. And I also work in teams and oversee multi-million-dollar grant budgets.
Thank you. Mrs. Nico Pendergrass, it is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to the school board?
besides the obvious, I bring diversity in the fact that I am a nonprofit business owner. I serve over 20,000 meals a year to the less fortunate, the hungry, the homeless people in our community. And it is my job to listen to those that have issues of concern with being underrepresented. And I believe that that is my greatest strength in bringing to the board, that I am a listener, and it would be my job to listen to the concerns of North Lawrence Community School System.
Thank you. Mr. Pemberton, it is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to this school board?
Well, if you think about it, diverse leadership teams are more effective because of the different perspectives that people bring to issues or problems. You know, you wouldn't want a team of accountants to build you a rocket ship. That, you know, you need more diversity than that to be successful. So I would bring diversity as the only financial person on the board, and also with a manufacturing background. So I could aid in financial management as well as focusing on skilled trades, areas like that. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, it is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to the school board?
Well, first of all, I'm not from here. I was born in St. Louis. I lived in Texas for a while, came up here, had no intention of staying, so I'm not a Hoosier, really. I plan to live here the rest of my life unless something changes, so I guess you might say I am a transplanted Hoosier. I don't like basketball, so I bring that diversity to the board. But every board is diverse in its own way. Currently, we have a state policeman, we have a doctor, we have a couple of construction guys, and we have an attorney along with a firefighter and a safety director at General Motors. So every board is diverse in its own way. And I think there's a reason for that, is because we each bring our own individual perspective to the board. And my area is more of a common sense area, and that's what I bring to the board other than being from Missouri.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, it is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to the school board?
I think it's important to recognize the perception that often is given in a public situation where you're serving on a board. I may cross a line here, but I'm a fairly religious person, and I believe that everyone is equal in God's eyes. And therefore, we need to treat everyone as if they are equal. We need to take a stance that it doesn't matter where they come from, what their name is, who they are. I grew up on a farm. If you had looked at me while I was in school, you would have never believed that I would achieve anything. Not just achieve what I have, but achieve anything. And I've had many teachers over the years that I've seen and talked with, and we've kind of giggled about the path that I took. We need to be willing to let a child guide them from cradle to career, whatever that career may be. And I appreciate the fact that we have the Career Center because, as Dr. Miller said, we don't all need college educations. We need technical people. So the diversity is that there needs to be diversity, and we need to recognize diversity among each and every person we have in the school system.
Thank you. Mr. Bay, it is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to the school board?
Oh, wow. I spent 40 years in the restaurant industry, and I can tell you that oftentimes we weren't very particular. Oftentimes we were very particular. Most of the time, our only criteria was that an individual was breathing. I believe you can learn something from everybody. Valuable life lessons from everybody. They don't have to look like you. They don't have to act like you. And if you use that diversity to benefit everyone, then everyone wins. And that's kind of how I look at it. And the board's pretty diverse right now with the professions that are there anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deckard, it is proven that diverse leadership teams are more effective. How do you bring diversity to the school board?
Obviously, I don't look like most of these people that are sitting over here because of my tattoos and this, that, and the other. My diversity is I own 4 companies, and it goes from construction, that I employ a bunch of people, and then also on my properties division, and then also falls down to my home health and then my personal care side. It's like we need different diversity in all aspects of this field. That way we can have different personalities and perspectives on everything to influence what we need to do.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Hackney, you will be first to answer this next question. What are your 4-year goals for our school, students and staff? What are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and staff?
My 4-year goal would be to bring back the morale to what it used to be at the North Lawrence Community Schools. It would be to improve communication. It would be to get the kids to enjoy coming to school. It would be the staff to be respected by everybody in the administration. And it would be overall to make the North Lawrence Community Schools a much better place to work and be educated.
Thank you. Mr. Lombrick, what are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and staff?
Well, I think to increase opportunities for our kids, to increase the pay for our teachers and our staff in general, and just make North Lawrence Community Schools the school system that everyone up here on this stage wants it to be. You know, we all want this to be an A school system or an A+ school system. And I think that anything we can do to get that direction is going to be welcomed by our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McNichols, what are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and staff?
I touched on this when I opened earlier, and really, again, I'll say it again. The focus for me is to improve the schools, enhance the quality of education, and increase opportunities for our young people, as well as heighten student experiences and increase school ratings. The school system is it's the pulse, it's the lifeblood of the community. You've got to improve the school system in any way you can. And improving the school system and increasing the opportunities for our young people be the guiding principles for what I'm doing.
Thank you. Mrs. Miller, what are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and staff?
So the first would be to restore the relationship between the community and the school board. We talked earlier a little bit about the opaqueness, so to have that communication open and having the school board members representing what the community wants. Secondly, recruiting and retaining the best teachers and staff. We've talked about this a lot. We're losing a lot of really great teachers and staff. Looking at the education fund and determining how we can raise their salaries. And that will also then, in effect, hopefully decrease this lack of enrollment that we're having. For students, I want to see students across the learning spectrum, across the spectrum of where they live, whether they're rural or in town, having the same opportunities, and that includes on e-learning. Our current e-learning is not set up for students with different learning needs. And that is going to be a major issue as we battle COVID and beyond. And finally, I would like that for all of our decisions that are made by the school board to be data-based and student-centered. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nico Pendergrass, what are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and staff?
My four-year goal would be that we start with our school as being an A-rating school, because that's going to affect our regional development. And then as far as our students, I'd like to see our students become a lot more stronger, because when they become stronger, then they're going to be able to be job ready to go out into the world and tackle the world. And then they're going to come back and become homeowners. And then our staff, as far as our teachers, when the teachers of conditions affect our students' conditions, it's all one big cycle. So I believe that once our 4-year cycle starts going around, we're going to become a much stronger community, and then we're going to have people wanting to invest into our community.
Thank you. Mr. Pemberton, what are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and the staff?
Being on the visionary committee, you know, some of the goals we laid out would be what I would want to see through as a board member, such as increasing teacher and staff pay. You know, as I've mentioned, we can't go through the pain and agony of closing schools and not reach that goal. You know, we want to have competitive pay where we benchmark our pay by position against neighboring schools and schools of similar size to us. You know, one of the other things we focused on was professional development and teacher collaboration, and I think we still have room to grow there, and I'd like to see that through. You know, I also would have the goal of being an open, honest, and transparent board member that communicates, kind of like I've run my candidacy. And finally, I'd like to see, you know, as I've said, I've got a young son that's in machine trades, and I'd like to see an increase in internships in local manufacturing and skilled trades.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, what are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and the staff?
First would be to see each student that attends North Lawrence schools receive a quality education, no matter what their career choice, no matter what their career path, that they have an opportunity to receive a good education, as good as we can possibly provide. I'd like to see the school grades increased. I would like to see teacher pay increased. The other thing would be more professional development for our teachers. I'd like to see us add at least 4 to 5 new classes to our career center. I'd like to see us start adding foreign language to our middle schools. There are many things we can do, but these would be the things that I would be most focused on.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, what are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and the staff?
Oftentimes, we don't think about how we got to where we are today. We need to think back to the fact that the number of enrollments that we had that left our school system for whatever reason, the Affordable Health Care Act, the ADM counts going from 1 a year to 2 a year, older teaching staff that had higher salaries, as well as having too much infrastructure in the school. The previous board has taken care of some of those things. And really it boils down to, as a financial person, the money. We now have more money than we had before. So now we should be able to be good stewards of that money and be able to increase the programs and the needs and the tools of all of those things that we've talked about that will raise everybody's enjoyment of being part of the North Lawrence Community Schools, be able to increase everyone's ability to learn. If it is watched over, if the administrators are held to the standard they need to be held to in teaching and guiding and leading our school system.
Thank you. Mr. Bay, what are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and staff?
My 4-year goals for North Lawrence Schools first would be to move our C- grade to an A, or better than an A, at least, 95% graduation rate. There's no reason we can't do that. There are schools in Indiana that have 100% graduation rate. And that's a measurable goal, and we can get there. Hopefully, we'd be able to get there in 4 years. I'd like to see us balance our staff. We have more coaches than we have math teachers and reading teachers. I believe our school system is bloated. I'm not in it yet, but I believe that there are places where we have too much help and other places where we don't have enough. Our special needs kids are desperate for help. And lastly, I want to see us right-size our budget. Last year, 2019-2020, we had a $52 million budget. $52 million. This year, 2020-2021, we have a $52 million budget again. There needs to be some questions answered about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deckard. Mr. Deckard, what are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and staff?
4-year goals would be to get the budget under control, stop the frivolous spending, and get the teachers the pay that they need so they can teach our students a lot better and help them with the continuing education. The students, they need more, as in out there at the Career Learning Center, because as being in construction, it's like I'm seeing things that are coming out that need to be helped a lot. We need more education in that field for either being in home health or construction trades, auto body, or anything like that.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, what are your 4-year goals for our schools, students, and staff?
Some of the things I'd like to see happen in the next 4 years would be it's my vision, to offer a safe and effective learning environment for all of the kids in our school system. They need to enjoy coming to school. If they enjoy coming to school, feel safe coming, they're going to learn without even realizing it. They're going to learn more. Also, like in our school system, as a cruise ship that's just sitting in the middle of the sea, it's not going anywhere. It's not sinking, but it's not going anywhere. And I envision that we've actually already started those engines, and it's starting to move. There's a lot of progress that needs to be made. We need to start within the next 4 years offering much higher compensation for our staff, not only just the teachers, but janitors and maintenance people as well. We need to increase or decrease our dropout rate, as well as our graduation rate. We need to keep offering just more. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombrick, you will be next to answer a question first. What changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay? What changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
I was on the board for 8 years, and I think without knowing the budget and seeing the budget for the last 8 years, I'm not sure that's a possible question. I don't think you can answer that question. I think we just have to look at the budget and see where you can squeeze out more money for the teachers. Now that we have less buildings and, in theory, less upkeep, less janitorial staff for those buildings, less administrative staff for those buildings, maybe there's more money for teachers. But without seeing the budget, I don't think I can adequately answer that question.
Thank you. Mr. McNichols, what changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
So again, this is a complicated question, but ideally, we want to compensate our teachers as much as we can. We want to deliver to those who deliver to us. I can't say 100% where additional money is going to come from, but I think the school system is moving in the right direction by trimming some of the fat. I mean, let's face facts. Some of the operating costs were a little exorbitant, and so now we've freed up some capital. Let's put that money to use where we can that best serves the community. And I think the teachers are one of the best options to utilize that cash or that funding. That'll do.
Thank you. Mrs. Miller, what changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
Well, first, I would echo what was said before about not having a line-by-line budget. I can give you sort of broad strokes of what I would do. The first thing I would do is I would look at grants. As I said, I'm a professional grant writer, looking at grants for teacher pay, but also to support professional development for teachers. I would look closely at the education fund. Again, I don't have it in front of me, and seeing what we can take from that to pay teachers. And so on the issue of turf, I want to bring that up just briefly. I realize that there are some things that can't be spent on teacher salary, like the turf project, which there was a lot of controversy over. But I would also look at things like, can we use that money in the facilities to improve the work environment of the teachers, even if we're not directly impacting their pay with it, which, unless I'm wrong, could have been done with the money that's being paid for, used for the turf. And then finally, I think the way that raises are given to teachers through like a one-time stipend is not appropriate, and if we could get them a raise that they see every paycheck would be one of my goals for teachers.
Thank you. Mrs. Nico Pendergrass, what changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
I think one of the ways that we should take a look, one of the things we should take a look at is what line items are going to be dropping off. That's number one when we're looking at the budget, because I believe that there's going to be some items that will be dropping off, and so in those line items, those are the items that we should first take and increase the teacher's pay. And the second thing is I believe there were some items on there that were considered outsourcing items. Those are items that I would take and use for the teacher's pay. Of course, we're all thinking about teachers. Also, as Dr. Wendy Miller mentioned, as a person who deals with grants, I would also think about grants. What grants are available out there to increase teachers' pay, staff pay? There's plenty of money out there to assist with making sure that our staffs, the teachers, and support systems are available for them, just like the one we just received for the $4.8 million. Maybe there was another grant out there for $4.8 million that could have assisted the teachers.
Thank you. Mr. Pemberton, you'll be next. What changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
Like others have mentioned, I don't know all aspects of the budget as of today. But I've had 30-plus years of experience in producing and going over financial statements in fine detail, and so could do the same with the superintendent or treasurer or whomever of the corporation to just give them ideas of things I've learned in that 30-plus years. As we've also mentioned, 82% is wages and benefits in the current budget, so that doesn't necessarily leave a lot of fat to trim. I mean, there's things you can do probably to save money, but the reality is we may have to revisit the idea of closing more schools to generate the savings necessary to reach the goals laid out. I don't know if we went far enough yet, and I don't think anyone does. I mean, time will tell, because enrollments are still declining, and there's other areas to save by closing schools.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, what changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
Well, we've already made some with the consolidation, and I think we need to look closer at our budget. We just recently added some LED lights in here. We're going to add LED lights to the football field. The turf that we are going to put on the football field will generate some savings in wages and in water and other things. So again, most of our budget is already dedicated to employees' pay and benefits. Yeah, we could look for grants. The problem with grants is if you give a teacher a raise based on a grant, when the grant runs out, how are you going to fund it? You got to find another grant. If you can't find another grant, do you go in and cut teachers' pay? So I think we just need to look at using the money we have the best that we can in order to pay our teachers more.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, what changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
I think one of the challenges that the common people have that aren't a part of the school system is they think that there's this gigantic pile of money, and that same pile of money is used for everything in the school corporation. And in reality, the funding mechanism for the schools is a very complicated beast. It dictates where we can spend money from, what bucket it comes from, and where it can go. In order to move money around to buckets, there needs to be hearings, and in some cases, money can't be moved at all. I will reiterate that the previous board has made some complicated decisions that weren't seen the way that they maybe should have been seen by a lot of people. I understand that schools were closed, and I understand that's hard for some people to take because that was their alma mater, that was their school. But the fact and the reality is that if we didn't do something, if the board didn't do something, we were going to bleed out. And there was going to not be any money for anything. And then you have the state come in, and then there's all kinds of other complicated things. So going forward now that we have made these decisions, I think that it's imperative that we are good stewards of what we do going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Bay, what changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
The first thing I think we need to do is right-size our staff. Like I said before, I think we're bloated in some places and we don't have enough in others. But without being here, I'm reviewing last year's compensation schedule for the entire staff, but I'm not done with that yet. But we have to right-size the staff and then right-size the budget based on that. Also, in Lawrence County and the city of Bedford, there are what's known as TIF districts. TIF districts siphon off the property taxes from the most valuable pieces of property in Bedford. It happens all across the state. When the TIF districts siphon off that money, they do not give the school what the school would normally be entitled to in regular property tax situations. It's time for North Lawrence schools to have a conversation with the county and the city about the money they're collecting out of the TIF districts. It would provide additional revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deckard. Mr. Deckard, what changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
To address teacher pay, that'd kind of be a little bit hard one because a lot of them right now are running, under what Mitchell and other surrounding counties are. I think we need to trim a lot of fat, whether we needed the turf or the LED lighting that's on the football field or some other things. I just think that there could have been a better way to spend money than to where it went to. That could have went to other resources as our teachers and resources for our teachers to be able to teach our students.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, what changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
I think that answer is twofold. You can't just cut just for the sake of cutting. We're talking about students and kids here. We're in business here to offer them everything that we can possibly offer them. So but we do look at the budget. We do look at trying to cut in informal ways, such as, adding LED lighting, like Larry said, turf on the football field. That was a divisive subject, but it's something I go out here almost every daily. Kids are so excited about the opportunity there, and we're also going to save money in the long run. And I know we're all up here to increase teacher pay, but we've talked about increasing teacher pay for the last decade or two, and nothing has really sufficed here. So we had to make a difficult decision. We had to close some schools to be able to, like I said before, we want our cruise ship to start moving, and to do that, we had to close some schools. And hopefully, soon, we're going to reap the benefits with that. And also, we need to find ways to keep kids in school so we can count them on our count days to get more money from the state. That's one way to be able to do that as well. So that's why we have Empire and Gateway to keep kids in school to make it happen.
Mr. Hackney. Mr. Hackney, what changes would you propose be made to the NLCS budget to address teacher pay?
Well, to me, it would be a pretty simple change in the sense that we make teachers' pay the #1 priority. Every time that we have a savings, we do something like the LED lights or there's some other savings, we look to where we're going to put the money we're saving. And #1, a certain percentage, if not all of it, we go towards teachers' pay every time. We put that at the top of the list on everything we do, and to keep the teachers we have and to get the best teachers to come here. Thank you.
Mr. McNichols, you'll be first to answer the next question. Oh, boy. Mr. McNichols, current board policy states all communications from the staff members to the... Gotcha. Current board policy states all communications from the staff members to the board shall be submitted through the superintendent. However, it is to be expected that when they meet socially, they will informally discuss issues, the general problems of the corporation. However, discussions between staff and board members of personal grievances will be considered to be unethical conduct. This policy prohibits board members from asking teachers about personnel issues without repercussions on the teacher. And some teachers feel the policy limits their ability to get help with issues regarding administration, since those communications need to go through the superintendent. Would you recommend omitting this policy? Why or why not?
All right, so that's quite the question. And really, the bottom line is, policy is in place for a reason. All right, so all the things in there. So we're talking about enabling teachers to communicate more informally with school board members. The biggest thing about this is the school board is a collective committee, right? So there's 7 people that are working on that. Speaking to just one person can be beneficial, but it's going to be a decision of a minimum of 4 people that are going to go ahead and greenlight any particular happening. My God, what were there, like 6 questions in that question? All right, so I'll try to get to really. All right, I don't think the policy is a terrible plan. I can understand the pressure that teachers might feel, the educators might feel, and having to route questions through the superintendent. And I can understand that being a difficult issue. But the policy's in place for a reason. If that's something that the community was interested in changing, I think that's what we should pursue. But until the community would speak directly to wanting to change that policy, I think the policy should stay in place.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, I actually think it's a terrible policy and would definitely support getting rid of it. I can't think of a reason why we would keep it, and every teacher that I know and have talked to and staff member would like for it to go away, and I think there's some board members who would like for it to go away. I don't know from where it comes, but it certainly ostensibly looks like we're trying to keep teachers from being able to talk to those who are making decisions that affect them. And I think it's, you know, we have board members who are married to teachers. We have people who are related to teachers, and to think that they don't talk is, I mean, it's ludicrous. So I think that that definitely should go away.
Thank you. Mrs. Nico Pendergrass. Current board policy states, quote, "All communications from staff members to the board shall be submitted through the superintendent. However, it is to be expected that when they meet socially, they will informally discuss issues, the general problems of the corporation. However, discussions between staff and school board members of personnel grievances will be considered to be unethical conduct. This policy prohibits board members from asking teachers about personal issues without repercussions on the teacher. And some teachers feel the policy limits their ability to get help with issues regarding administration, since those communications need to go through the superintendent. Would you recommend amending this policy? Why or why not?"
I totally disagree with it. I feel that anything that's that is a public school should not be held in private. And that's what I believe that it would be done as far as it going to the superintendent. I think that anything that's pertaining to the teachers, this heart should be out into the public, and the public should be aware of what's going on in order for us to support them. If we're going to create a support system for the teachers, then allow them to be able to speak freely. That's my opinion. So I would totally amend it.
Thank you. Mr. Pemberton, that's your question.
Throughout my career, I've worked for 5 different manufacturing companies, and without fail, they have all had an open door policy. And the reason that they have that open door policy is so that people feel free to exchange ideas, usually ideas on how to save money, which companies are obviously interested in. So that's why they have those kind of policies. In the case here, I think the same thing should apply, that you should have that open door policy. But I would add the caveat that you don't want a board member micromanaging the superintendent or administrative staff. That would be something that you would have to guard against, because you don't want someone going to complain to a board member who then tries to get the superintendent to do something different in that situation. So I think that avoiding that situation would be preferable. Thank you.
Mr. Arnold, it's your question. Would you like me to read it?
No, I don't think you need to read it.
Okay. He gave me the look, so.
All I'd have to say to that is, what policy? That's not my policy. You know, I see the school system as an upside-down pyramid. On the top are our students, right below that is our staff, and on the very bottom of that pyramid is the board. Our job is to be a public servant. When we lose the idea that we are a public servant, then we become ineffective as board members. I've talked to many teachers, many support staff through the years that I've been on the board, and you know, there are delicate ways you can bring things up without mentioning any names. That's my policy. And if it's an official policy, we need to amend it, because teachers are our employees, and I don't know of any place that doesn't listen to their employees. I worked for a man for 14 years, and he always listened to us, and the one thing he told me that stuck with me is, I didn't hire you to agree with me, I hired you to advise me. And that's the way I feel about our staff.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, thank you.
I think it's important to remember that although education is the most important thing that we do, this is a business. And in any business, there needs to be those people that are administrators and those that are teachers. However, teachers are also citizens, and they need to be heard. So I do think that it needs to be looked at. I can honestly tell you I haven't read it, so I don't know what the verbiage is with it, but it sounds like it needs to be looked at and adjusted. However, we need to make sure that the situations that are discussed when a teacher has issues and problems, that it's not personnel related. If it's personnel related, it needs to be with the administrators, and they need to handle it. Once again, staying in our lane. I don't want to be on a committee to decide who's going to be the next science teacher at the high school. That's the administrator's job. If it is a situation where a citizen sees a need and wants to fix a need, then I am all ears and will always be able to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bay?
I'm all good.
All right, thank you.
I've been to the last 8 or 9 school board meetings, I think, and I have faced the condensation of the school board personally. So I understand how the teachers feel. The transition from Gary Connor to Ty Mungle was handled so poorly. It created a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety among all of the staff, not just the teachers, but everyone, and rightly so. Many of them have had their assignments changed. Many of them are not even in the same school anymore. And now, because of this policy, they can't talk to the school board members to seek help with that. So this policy needs to be discarded. It's outdated, it's obsolete, needs to go away. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deckard? You may read. Are you good?
If you want to read it, go for it.
If you've got it, I got it.
I might as well put this mask back on because a lot of these teachers out here feel like they're just smothered because the board and the superintendent is not hearing them. They're just punishing them, and I don't understand why. If this rule is in place, it needs to go away. It's ridiculous. That's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert?
I can answer this in 2 different ways. The first way is similar to what Tracy and Larry had said, mostly being because they've been on the board before. There are some things that the board just cannot discuss. Most importantly, it's like the personnel issues. If there's personnel issues, they need to go through a protocol session, and it needs to go through the administrators and on up until you know, hopefully it doesn't get to the board where we have to be basically a jury on an issue. So maybe that's why that policy is in place. I don't know exactly because I don't have the verbiage next to me. But on the other side of it is I'll talk to anybody. I've talked to a million teachers, a million people from the community. I always will do that. Now, if it's something that might pertain to a personnel issue, I'll have to say, hey, look, you know, I can't talk about that, but I'll talk to you about anything else. And I always do. And I think all of us would probably agree. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hackney?
It's a horrible policy. Policy number is 3112. And it doesn't matter who initiates the contact. And the teacher can be punished for unethical conduct just because a school board member calls he or she. It's an absolutely ridiculous policy and needs to be removed as quick as possible. And I think just from the number of people that have talked here tonight, you understand how dumb it really is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombrick?
I know 8 years ago when I was on the board, that was not a policy. I talked to anyone that wanted to talk to me. I would talk to anybody on the street, you know, how's your job going, how are things going? If the teacher wanted to respond and talk to me or tell them about a problem, then that was great. I wanted to hear about their problem because, like everyone has said, we want to hear our staff's problems. We want to be able to improve our school system. So I would have to, you know, I'm going to ask the question, first of all, why was this policy ever enacted? And then, yes, I think it needs some serious work, if not just removal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Miller, you'll be next to answer a question first. Mrs. Miller, consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here in Lawrence County?
Yes, so I do agree that this has been such a divisive issue and very painful for our community. And what I can say about that in terms of response is, as a school board member, it is not my job to tell other citizens what they can do and what they can't do. I can say that for our school system, we need to address the root causes of why we have declining enrollment, teachers not staying. We need to address those. If we can improve those, there wouldn't be a need for a charter school. So I do not have anything against parents who are doing better for their kids because they feel that the current system is not doing it. And so that would be my strategy, is we have to improve our system so that there isn't that need. If our system was meeting the needs, we wouldn't have parents needing to do this or putting their kids in other school systems or in private school.
Thank you. Mrs. Nico Pendergrass, consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here?
Well, I'm not sure if it was necessary. I don't know a whole lot about that. But I don't, from what I've understood, I can't say whether it was necessary or not. But one thing I do know is that we are stronger together as one and up under the North Lawrence Community School System. I would say that what we want to do is try to bring everyone together, because every time one student leaves, we're losing revenue. And revenue is what holds us all together. So we want to try and build stronger, build longer. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Mr. Pemberton, consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here?
Well, coming from the business world, I think competition is good. Competition makes you better. I don't want to see revenue bled off from NLCS schools, but my attitude towards that would be, if they can do it and be successful, then more power to them, and you know, that should just make us better at what we do at NLCS. Thank you.
Mr. Arnold, consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here?
Well, I wish them a lot of luck, because they're going to need a lot of it. A charter school is a very hard thing to get approved, and from being on the board and knowing what all is involved in running and maintaining a school and the different ways financing is set up and everything, it's a difficult task. But North Lawrence Schools needs to concentrate on improving North Lawrence schools and not really being concerned about charter schools or private schools. My goal, my passion is North Lawrence schools. And that's where my focus is, and that's where my focus will always be.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey. Consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here?
So again, as been said, I know that it cut deep to many people. It hurt many people to see their schools closed. However, if what I could say would be stay the course. Hard decisions have been made. We know that what you want is the best for your children, but children are resilient. They're going to do what their adult parents ask them to do. If they hear negativity, they're going to spew negativity. If they hear positivity, they're going to be positive. They're going to be excited. We want to be able to bring back the pride to North Lawrence Community Schools. And I think the division that we have isn't doing that. But it's up to the adults to take charge and realize that the decisions have been made. Let's see it out. Let's stay the course and see what happens.
Thank you. Mr. Bay, consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here?
Bedford has St. Vincent de Paul Christian School. We have a number of tons and tons of homeschoolers. We have, at one time we had a Christian school on Washington. I don't believe that a charter school will impact our school system any more than those schools did when they all opened, or homeschooling does. I do believe that people were upset by the consolidation, and I believe they're going to pull their kids out of our system, whether they put them in a local charter school or Greene County schools or homeschool or a church school. At least in a local charter school, they'll have the opportunity to move back to North Lawrence schools quickly if they need to, and they'll still be in our county. It will take revenue from North Lawrence schools, but that is something that we should have prepared for before consolidation, not after.
Thank you. Mr. Deckard, consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here?
Of course, the NLCS is going to discredit all the charter schools and anything else that's going to come in there. It's going to be devastation to their budget. It's going to be good competition. I mean, are we not in the business to help our children and make our children learn? But if we're closing schools and we have no place for them to go, if a charter school wants to come in and help teach our students, then I think it's, their choice. If they can do it, then let them do it. It's our superintendent and our board that have failed and closed these schools is where we're at today.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here?
That's good competition. They have every right to want to start a charter school. I think it can only make our NLCS school system better. That's what we're striving for. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to offer everything that we can for our students. By closing schools, yeah, it may foster some people wanting to go to a charter school or go to a different school district. We understood that, but we're offering so much more than we did 2 years ago. Empire, Playful Pathways, Gateway Academy, those are all things that give kids different avenues other than a brick and mortar, type setting. We just have to continue offering more and making our school system better so the kids who may have went to Eastern or went to homeschool, they'll come back. They'll come back into our school system. So competition's okay, and we're ready to take them on and offer more and do better.
Thank you. Mr. Hackney, consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here?
I would say they have every right to do that. More power to them. I believe every parent has a right to send their child to a school of their choice. I would tell them that I hope everything works for them. I hope it becomes a tremendous school. But in the chance that it might not, that NLCS will always welcome them back here and would love to have them here. And I agree with what Jeremy said. It'd be a great competition. And so it gives, if they succeed, it gives us something to work towards. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombrick, consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here?
You know, I think first off, divisive and devastating are just huge words to throw out there for that. I mean, yes, it's going to cause a rift in our community, and it has. But, you know, if they want to start a charter school, I'm fine with that too. You know, it will just make us better. I think we need to stay the course, continue to improve as much as we can. So, you know, if things don't work out for them, we'll welcome those students back to a better learning environment than they left. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McNichols, consolidation may have been a necessary move, but it has clearly upset a number of people in the community. The creation of a charter school would be divisive and financially devastating to NLCS. How would you propose we respond to community members who wish to create a charter school here?
I wish them luck. The bottom line is school and public education, education as a whole is a hard game, a tough game, and a very expensive one at that. I think people in the community need to face facts that you may have some success in trying to get a charter school started, but education's real expensive. We have a $52 million budget for NLCS for a reason. It's because this stuff does not come cheap. And if you think that you know, opening a building and having some opportunities there is going to be enough, and you're not factoring in transportation, all of the infrastructure, everything else that goes with it. I hope people can take the moment to figure out that if it's just some upstart by a couple people that are upset, you're gambling with your kids' futures. So please take that into consideration when you consider moving on and moving in a different direction outside of NLCS.
Thank you. This next question will be Ms. Nico Pendergrass will be the first to respond. Many people run for school board to right what they think was wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
First of all, I believe that we as a board, our focus should be that we are consensus builders. We are supposed to be a team representing the body, and that's the community. And so although we might be concerned about what everyone is thinking, we have to put aside what we personally, our personal feelings, and think about our accountability to each and every person. But how do we represent the body as a whole? And so we're ambassadors over the futures of the children, and that's who we're really representing, is the children's. And so what do? What is it that we're looking for them to become? We want them to become the homeowners, the business owners, the entrepreneurs. So we're looking at their futures. So we have to lay aside everything that we think about personally, but who are we really representing? And that's our children.
Thank you. Mr. Pemberton, many people run for school board to right what they think was a wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
Yeah, emotions have ran high throughout the whole process of closing schools, and I totally understand it. But it comes down to communication, I think, and just being open and honest with people and engaging with them and using data to prove out the decisions that you've made. In my field, you know, you have to have integrity. When you handle people's money, you only get one chance to lose that integrity. So I take that job very seriously. And, you know, character, they say, is doing the right thing when nobody's looking, and same thing applies here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, many people run for school board to right what they think was a wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
Well, being on the school board is a business. We are basically the board of trustees for a very large business. And North Lawrence Community Schools employs over 960 employees. And emotions have no place in our decisions. We have to put our emotions aside and look at what's best for students, staff, and for the well-being of our school system. Every so often you come out on the wrong end of a vote. You don't get what you want. But you have to move on. You have to realize that you win some, you lose some, and you have to put your differences aside. The board is a team. We have to work together as a team, because if we're all working in opposite directions and we're trying to tear the board apart, we're doing a great injustice to our school corporation, which means our kids.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, many people run for school board to right what they think was a wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
So again, as has been said, you're one of 7 on the board. And it's important that the board understand the appropriate roles and responsibilities in which they have. If the board doesn't, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to have low internal relations, there's going to be lack of trust, there's going to be a display of lack of professionalism, no vision, run the risk of telegraphing that to the community, and then lack of confidence in the board. Larry really hit the nail on the head, having 4 of us that have been on the board. You win some, you lose some. But the respect has to be there. Regardless of where anybody else comes down on an issue, it's about the issue, and it's not about the individual. And what I would hope is that we will start to be able to have more discussions, because there's too many decisions, important decisions, that the information is not getting to the board quickly enough that we can have a good open forum and open discussion with that particular item. So what I hope for more than anything is that it's a board that is cohesive and works together for the good of the community.
Thank you. Mr. Bay, many people run for school board to right what they think was a wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
If I were on the school board today and we took a vote on AstroTurf today, the vote would be 6-1. And I would lose, and I would get over it, because that's what you have to do when you work in a committee environment. And then we'll move to the next decision. Hopefully, by being on the board, the vote would be different than 6-1, because I would require more information than the board required to make that decision. I have no personal axe to grind. I have no children in the schools, but I'm concerned about the quality of our schools and all of the children in Lawrence County. I'd like to see the board use far more information to reach the decisions they reach, and I think the outcomes will be different. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deckard, many people run for school board to right what they think was a wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
Putting my personal stuff aside is I don't have anybody in the school systems. I don't have no spouse, anybody that works for the school systems, nothing like that, like some people do. I would like to just be able to see what's going on and be able to help more.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, many people run for school board to right what they think was a wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
I think with any board that you serve on, you have to make an unbiased decision. You can't go at any decision and be hastily about it. I think our board, our current board that we have now, we've had tons of discussion that many think that we've not gone through or not had. We have. We don't all agree. Obviously, the community, the public sees that when we don't have a 6-0, 7-0 vote. It's okay, because as soon as that vote's over and the agenda passed, they say closing schools. The very next board meeting, we weren't in there arguing about why we chose to close schools or which school, whatever. We decided, hey, let's put all of our opinions aside, and we're going to make our school system better. So we didn't continue the argument or the discussion of why. Let's continue forward to make things better. Thanks.
Mr. Hackney, many people run for school board to right what they think was a wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
I have always worked well as a team in my career, and I found out a long time ago that my way wasn't always the right way, and I'm more than willing to compromise, and communication is, of course, a priority, but there will be a personal bias. I believe that all my decisions will be based on what's best for the students, what's best for the teachers, what's best for the staff, and what's best for the taxpayers out there. So I will always have that bias, and I think that everybody on the board hopefully will feel that way. Thank you.
Mr. Lombrick, many people run for school board to right what they think was a wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
You know, every board member is different. Every board member has a different background, a different point of view. I think you just learn to respect their point of view. You don't always have to agree with it, and you don't always have to be happy with it. But you respect everyone's point of view. You learn that you're doing what's best for the school system, and that starts with the kids. You want these kids to get the best education that we can afford. To do that, you got to take care of your staff, you got to take care of your buildings. But I think you just keep the kids number one, and you'll get through it.
Thank you. Mr. McNichols, many people run for school board to right what they think was a wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
All right, here's the deal. There's no such thing as an unbiased decision, but there are educated and informed decisions. And simply, these are the considerations that need to be accounted for and guide the school board's decisions.
Thank you. Mrs. Miller, many people run for school board to right what they think was a wrong on a personal level. Putting your personal differences aside, what is your plan for navigating emotions and personal ties so that you can make unbiased decisions?
Well, my decisions will always be based firmly in data and evidence, and also in what the community is telling me they want based on in the constituents. So if I stay true to that, I think that is my best way forward to meeting the goals that I've outlined before. Also, in my job in academia, I am required to work in teams all the time. And disagreements are very common in academia, and so I am used to working with colleagues with whom I disagree, but can do so respectfully. So I think having respect for other members on the board, for the community, and for the entire administration team is really important. But I would base all decisions on data and not any personal preference.
Thank you. Our last question of the night will go to Mr. Pemberton. If elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be the #1 priority moving forward?
Seems like an easy one. We've talked about it all night. To me, moving forward, the #1 priority needs to be teacher pay. We don't want to lose teachers to other school districts. We want to be able to hire and retain talent. So, and it's the largest part of the budget. So, to me, that's an easy one that we need to focus on teacher pay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, if elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be #1 priority moving forward?
It's the same as it's been every time I've ran for school board. It's the students. We need to turn out quality students. We need to have quality schools in order to attract more students, retain the students we have, and also along with that comes increasing the ability to retain good teachers and to attract new good teachers through better pay. But ultimately it comes down to the kids. That's the most important part of our school corporation, providing them with opportunities for education so that they can become a productive citizen, hopefully, and return to Lawrence County to build the population instead of Lawrence County continually decreasing in population and keeping our schools where they need to be, and that is an A school.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, if elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be the #1 priority moving forward?
You know, this is going to be one of those situations where, depending on where you stand and what you're looking at, is going to dictate what that #1 priority is. For me, I think it's vital that after everything that we've gone through, that we find some form of unity. That unity is a pride in our school system. That we have a shared vision of where we want to be and what we want to become, and that we realize that it takes time. It didn't happen overnight to get us to where we are today. And it's not going to happen this year that we're going to fix all the problems. But do we have a plan and are working on problems as we go along? Or do we have a plan that at some point, in some future that I hope to see, that we have teachers that come here not just because of pay, but because of the work environment, and because it's such a wonderful place to be respected, to have the tools, and we're turning out just wonderful citizens that come back to our community and make Bedford an even better place than it is.
Thank you. Mr. Bay, if elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be the #1 priority moving forward?
I think the first thing that we should do is do a comprehensive review of the way the books are kept at North Lawrence Community Schools. The schools are funded out of numerous different funds, it's my understanding. And when a teacher needs a raise, there's money in one fund, but there's no money in the fund that she could get a raise out of if a raise were available. So I think we need to look at how the books are being kept here. Short of that, and I think that needs to be done by a third-party accounting firm, not by somebody in the county, but a large accounting firm. And I believe we'll find what we need in our budget to take care of the people that we have the way that we need to take care of them. Not all of our teachers are low paid, I can assure you of that. The starting teachers are. They are paid well below what teachers in surrounding counties are started at. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deckard, if elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be the #1 priority moving forward?
I think the school budget, because if we can't get our school budget under control, then apparently by some people, we're going to probably close some more schools, and that doesn't sound like a good thing. I mean, if the budget's not under control, then we can't give teachers more raises, and we can't be able to help our students grow and learn more.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, if elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be the #1 priority moving forward?
Number one priority moving forward should always be about the kids. We need to be able to find ways, more ways to offer more. I think we always have to think about how to, give them a safe, effective environment at schools. And one way to be effective is to offer more programs for the IEP, high ability, kids who fall in the middle. We have to catch those kids. Also, teacher morale, staff morale, we have to raise that. And one of those ways to raise that is to offer more pay and compensation. But it just doesn't come off a tree. We have to find ways to do that. And unfortunately, we've not found that way for, like I said, a decade or two. That's why we had to close schools to find funding to be able to do this. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Hackney, if elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be the #1 priority moving forward?
Well, I probably have two #1 issues, or 1 and 1A. Kids will always be #1 for sure. And 1A would be get the teachers paid appropriately. I agree some may be overpaid, but for the most part, we are well below what the surrounding counties are. But the kids, I'm holding a document here, there's just 77-page document just navigating the course for Article 7 for special education. 77 pages to tell you what you need to do, and we're not doing it. We're breaking the law right now. We don't have enough aides in classes. We have too many students that need aides that are in classes where they don't have them. And the Article 7 document itself is 140 pages. So put the kids first, and everything else will fall in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lombrick, if elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be the #1 priority moving forward?
I feel student success should be our #1 priority. I mean, that means retaining great teachers, that means retaining good staff, keeping our facilities, to the best of our ability, and more programming for our students. But I think student success should be our #1 priority.
Thank you. Mr. McNichols, if elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be the #1 priority moving forward?
Well, the easy answer is it's the kids, and that's always going to be the case. I mean, this is a school. The school's business is kids. It's education. We need to make sure that we're giving the kids of this community the greatest opportunities that we can and giving them the greatest chances to become successful citizens. The other part of this, the other component of this, is the community, and we need to focus on the community and helping the community develop. Now, all of that, in a community like this, all of that is funneled through the school. It has to happen through the school. We don't have a bunch of new industry coming in. There's not all sorts of different stuff happening. But if you want that to happen, then you need to concentrate on making the school system the best it can be and to attract those opportunities to this community and improve collectively for the community.
Thank you. Mrs. Miller, if elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be #1 priority moving forward?
So I think reestablishing trust between the community and the board. Our community has endured not just the upheaval of the school closings, but then a pandemic. And we didn't pause the consolidation during that. We went full steam ahead. And so I think we have a lot of really leery people about what's going on, especially with the rules in terms of communication. So I think that's #1. And then these aren't like #1, 2, 3, but also very important is really moving that needle toward making sure that we are providing equal learning opportunities for all students, and that includes special ed students, high ability students, students with IEPs. And we keep talking about it, but really putting plans in action, especially during COVID when we may be going to all online before we know it, making sure that that is set up not just to serve students near the mean, but all students, including those who may be of lower socioeconomic status or in a rural setting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Nico Pendergrass, if elected to the board, what issue do you feel should be the #1 priority moving forward?
I think we need to think about conflict resolution of all the issues that we've addressed tonight. We need to find solutions to the problems by addressing the teachers' pay. We need to think about communicating with the public. We need to look at how do we bring our students from a C, D level rating to an A, B level. We need to look at the budgets and see how can we find ways to do things better and make it better for the community, for the school system overall. We need to also think about what is the accountability and responsibility of the board.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all of your responses and your time here tonight. Thank you to the community members for submitting the questions. Each candidate will now have 1 minute for a closing statement, beginning with Mr. Arnold. Mr. Arnold, to the podium, please. You have 1 minute from when you start.
Again, I'd like to say thank you to the NLEA for putting this forum on and for everyone that made it possible. In closing, I'd just like to say that I feel like that North Lawrence Community Schools has made some great strides. We still have a ways to go. We're working on it. We have done so much in new programs and in new things between the Playful Pathways, the Gateway Academy. There are just many things happening in North Lawrence schools that are positive. And I want to continue to see that happen. I want to see us expand our Career Center. Our Career Center is out of room. We have programs that we could bring in right now that would train our students to stay in this community and get a good paying job. I want to see us build on what we have started, and I want to be a part of that. And I enjoy being a part of North Lawrence Community Schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tracy Bailey, you have 1 minute.
So we've heard a lot of different opinions this evening, and a lot of different ideas, a lot of different thoughts. I appreciate the other 10 candidates and their willingness to put their name out there and put themselves out there to try to better our school system. Because of my career path, I've met a lot of people in Lawrence County over the years. A couple of them like me, maybe a lot more dislike me. And that's unfortunate because I've always tried to do the right thing. I've always tried to make sure that whatever my decision is, it's the right thing. Have I made mistakes? Absolutely, as we all do. But today, as we get ready to go into this election, what it really is going to boil down to is you've heard from candidates in a very limited amount of time with very, very limited amounts of information. And I'm sure we could all go way deeper into the things that we have and opinions on and what we want to say. What it boils down to is if you think that I or any one of these candidates can do the job, vote for us. If you don't think so, then you have 10 more to choose from. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Mr. Ed Bay. You have 1 minute.
Thank you all for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. Thank you for those in the auditorium for all your hard work, and I appreciate being here with you. Our school system's broken. Our school board is definitely broken. This election is an opportunity for our voters to move in a direction to fix that. And there's 11 candidates here, and all of them want to do that. So I'd appreciate your support. And I'll see you on November the 3rd. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Next to the podium, William Deckard. You have 1 minute.
I think there's time for a change, and I think the change is now. I think everybody that is out there is reaching out for a change. With my background and what I have, I think I'd be a good candidate to be on the board to help for a new change. And there's a lot of people up here that don't need to be running, but there are a few people that are up here that need to be in that position. So you guys need to dig deep and research everybody on this panel. Ask us questions. Definitely ask us questions.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Mr. Jeremy Gilbert. You have 1 minute.
First, I'd like to thank the NLEA for allowing all of us to come up and talk to the community tonight. Second, I don't feel like our school system's broken or needing of change. I think we are changing. As the last 2 years, we've done a lot of positive things. Have they been difficult? Difficult decisions? Yes. Decisions I didn't want to have to make? Yes. But we're making those changes like everyone says we need. Like I said, we've started Empire, Gateway, Playful Pathways, offered many more programs at the Career Center where we got AP courses where kids can almost get an associate's degree when they graduate high school. So I don't think it's broken. We're making successful students when they graduate. But we do need to get better and continue to offer more. And that's a complex issue. We need to take care of our teachers. And when I say teachers, I'm talking about the staff, janitors, maintenance people, food service. We need to take care of them too. If we do that, it'll in turn help our students. And that's why I'm here. I just want to help our kids. Thanks.
Next to the podium, Mr. Ken Hackney. You have 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody for putting this together tonight. I want everybody to vote for whoever they think will do the best job to further the educational and character development of their students, who will do their best to answer our teachers' needs in and out of the classroom, including the salary imbalance. Number 3, who will do their utmost to communicate the desires of the public and the taxpayers to the board and to the administration, and will also explain to the community why they made the decisions they did. I will be an advocate for students and teachers, and that begins with opening the lines of communication between the teachers and the school board. That is why, if I'm elected, I will pursue eliminating the policy that prohibits teachers from talking to school board members, as we discussed tonight. I want to hear from the people that are teaching and interacting with our students on a regular basis, without that conversation being filtered by a third party. Teachers are our #1 resource on students' wants and needs. No one should fear expressing his or her views on the betterment of our students, teachers, and schools. Again, thank you to everyone.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Mr. Jeff Lombrick. You have 1 minute.
I want to thank the NLA for putting this on for all of us so we can get our words out to the public and just anyone that chooses to watch this and become an educated voter. Thank all of you guys for coming tonight because it's been insightful. You know, I'm just here for the kids. I've been on the board before, so I think I have a step up for those that haven't because I kind of can get up to speed a little quicker. It takes a while to learn what the board's like, how it works, who to believe, who to trust. That's sad to say, but it's the truth. And just if you'll elect me, I'll do my very best to be the best board member I can be, keep our students first, you know, help do what we can for the staff's pay raises and keep our facilities up and do the best that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Mr. George McNichols. You have 1 minute for closing comment.
So I was drawing up my closing remarks. My wife and I were sitting at our kitchen counter and I was eating lasagna soup. She asked me why I was running for school board. And the answer is, it's the greatest opportunity for me to have a positive impact on a community that I care deeply about. And the truth is that NLCS has faced some challenges lately, and there are going to be more to come. I do believe we're moving in the right direction. And I also think that there's never been a better time for an optimistic team player to be part of that process. If you feel the same, I'd appreciate your vote. Let's do this, Lawrence County. Let's get some wins. Let's be a big positive factor in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next to the podium, Mrs. Wendy Miller. You have 1 minute. Thank you.
So as a mom, a college professor, and a professional grant writer who works in teams and oversees large budgets, and most importantly, someone who is very passionate about education and making sure that kids of all kinds get equal opportunities, I'm uniquely well prepared to be a board member. I promise you that if I'm elected, I will make decisions based on evidence, and I have no problem dissenting respectfully with my other board members, but also understand the need to come together and work as a team, which I do in my professional life daily. So if I'm elected, I will dialogue openly with the community. That's the most important thing that I can say about how I will handle being a school board member. I will advocate for supporting teachers and staff, and I will always make data-based decisions to ensure that all students, again, regardless of ability or address or socioeconomic status or race, get the same opportunities. If anything I've said tonight has resonated with you, I ask that you join me and vote for me, and you can find me at Wendy Trueblood Miller on Facebook, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Our next speaker for closing comments, Mrs. Janice Nico Pendergrass. You have 1 minute.
Thank you for this opportunity to be here and close out tonight. I thank you all for watching us tonight and watching me be nervous. This is my first time running as a candidate for school board. But the one thing I want you to take away from this tonight is that I've taken the time to come in before you because I care. I am not someone who normally stand here and want to put my life on the line and be nervous as I am, but because I care, I'm taking this stance and standing here today to tell you that I am a worker bee. I'm more of a worker than I am a speaker. I want to stand up here and do the job. I'm ready to go to work for the teachers, for the school board, for the students. Let me go and work for you, work for the students, advocate for them. If you believe what I'm saying, please vote for Janice at janice.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last closing statements tonight, Mr. Brian Pemberton. You have 1 minute. Mr. Brian Pemberton.
Before I forget, I'll plug for my Facebook page as well, Brian Pemberton for NLCS School Board. I would answer any questions you have there. Also want to thank the NLEA for hosting the forum tonight. 11 of us up here on the stage, 3 seats open. There's enough good candidates up here to fill those seats. I would encourage you to vet the candidates, like they say, make sure they don't have an axe to grind or have revenge as their motivation for running. I know I can make a positive impact with the knowledge that I've learned on the Visionary Committee and with my education and experience being in a financial background. I know I can make a positive impact for a school system that's struggling with money. And so I humbly ask for your vote this November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you again to the candidates for coming out tonight, sharing their platforms, and answering questions that were submitted from around the North Lawrence school community. The NLEA wishes to send out a special thank you to the Bedford North Lawrence High School for use of the Performing Arts facility, along with Mr. Jay Black, Promote Productions for doing the recording this evening, and the NLEA team of teachers who volunteered to make this event happen tonight. What you haven't seen behind the scenes are the people keeping time and cleaning stations to keep all of our candidates safe. Special thank you to you. This concludes tonight's program. Thank you for attending and being engaged in our local public schools. Get out and vote. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.